Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Harvey, and to Ika for allowing me to speak to you guys this morning. Before I actually present about the training that I would have gone on, I want to say that I am one of the people who has benefited from a lot of the training that Mrs. Harvey would have spoken about. I would have done the assessor training on the TVET Council. So I am an certified. I am certified to train and assess for the agri-food course. So I am doing level 2 and level 3. Level 3 is not finished quite yet. Also, I had to write them down. I also received the training for the PCQI and lead instructor training last year for the human food rule, and I'm about to go on training in Jamaica to do the produce safety training for lead instructor again, and I'll be able to train for that hopefully later this year. We have already started training for the human food rule. We trained about 40 people already, me and another one of my colleagues, Pamela Whitehall. Just off of the top of my mind, some of the places that would have received training: Jay's Enterprises, BB's Snacks. Wabisco is another place that would have received training already. So we trained quite a few number of people already. You mentioned the AMR training on the Ohio State University. I also participated in that one as well. So a lot of training initiatives on the ICA. All right, so I can use this. Oh. All right, you can go on. So today I'll just talk to you briefly about the training I would have gone on in Guadeloupe. Go back to the introductory. It was myself and another one of my colleagues, Dr. Julianne Hinkson. At the time of the training, I worked for the Ministry of Agriculture. At the time, I would have been assigned to the Government Analytical Services, and Julianne would have been at the Vet Services, but now we have switched. After receiving this training, I was able to get a transfer to the Vet Services to help to push off this training. So as I speak more, you'll see what we've been doing. So you can go on. All right, so why was the training necessary? I will talk about the main objectives of the training, where we did it, what was taught and how, and the methodology and the outcomes and the successes of this training. So why was the training necessary? Does anybody here know about avian influenza? Have you heard in the news about the outbreaks in the US and Canada this year, and last year, and the year before? So every time you hear about the outbreaks in North America, our poultry industry gets really, really scared. Because as the birds migrate during the winter from North America down to get warmer climates and food, they're exposing our chickens here, our poultry industry here, and the Caribbean to the virus. So this was a major problem. This is a major problem worldwide, and this is why we needed to have adequate training available in Barbados and the Caribbean. For our lab, we need to be able to rapidly diagnose if the wild birds are actually having HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza. They have the virus, and if our birds would be at risk to getting the virus from them. So this is why this training was very important back then, and it's still kind of relevant right now. All right, next one. So the main objective was to strengthen the lab capacity. So again, strengthen the vet services lab to be able to rapidly diagnose and respond to the disease if we do ever find it. Hopefully we don't right now. And as I said, I was working at the Government Analytical Services back then, and at GAS, we do testing of water and food and such. So the type of testing that we did the training on is not only applicable to animal diseases, but also to food and water. The method is called PCR, polymerase chain reaction, but I'll go into a bit more about that after. So where did we do the training? We actually did 6 weeks in Guadeloupe at CIRAD INRA. It is a regional veterinary diagnostic lab, and it's involved in research focusing on emerging animal diseases. This lab is accredited for a number of tests, molecular and serological tests, including avian influenza, which was the one of concern back then, along with West Nile virus and heart-water disease. So they do a lot of research. When I was there were many PhD students, research assistants, and it was very amazing to see that it's just there in Guadeloupe, but we're not really exposed to, you know, them in the Caribbean. So it was really good to see something different happening right here in the Caribbean. So the areas covered in the training, so a molecular diagnostics targeting avian influenza, Newcastle disease, and West Nile virus. So because we didn't just want to do AI when we went, they gave us exposure to different diseases as well, so we could do a multiple number, so that when we got back to Barbados, we could implement these as well. So we learned how to analyze the results, how to troubleshoot if we needed to, how to handle and ship dangerous goods. So this actually will be another set of training that happens in different labs. So the hospital labs and vet labs, this is the kind of training we need to do. So there's actually certifications to do it. So they just give us like an overview. We learned about quality assurance and good lab practices. So we didn't necessarily need the full 6 weeks to do just the molecular work. So that's why they give us a whole number of different things to study and to learn about. So the methods, we did PowerPoint presentations. We got to watch the trainers, but the best part was when we actually did hands-on work. So I have a number of pictures to show you later. So what exactly is PCR? Go again, Damien. So preliminary chain reaction, basically, is like it's DNA testing. We have, for any particular test you're testing, so we're doing avian influenza, if you have a sample and there is avian influenza present, we will have a target gene that is specific to avian influenza. If a gene is present, then you can multiply and get multiple copies of that gene. And that's how you can tell if it's positive or negative. So I'll show you how we will interpret the results later. So this is just to show you the steps of what we went through. So the first step would have been to, just keep pressing, Damien, to extract the genetic material from the samples. Yeah, just stop there. So in this case, the genetic material would have been RNA, so that's similar to DNA. And I don't know if you could see very well.
Take off the leg?
Yeah.
Oh, much better.
So right.
Yeah.
This would have just been swabs that would have been taken from the chickens. And when we got there, we didn't have to do any sampling. The samples were frozen, and we worked on those. So it would have been old samples that they had. And we would have just extracted the DNA from the samples. And we had to be fully suited to do this work. So this is us here wearing masks, goggles. Everything we're wearing is disposable. You can go again. And we had to use a biosafety class 2 cabinet to do the work, because this avian influenza, although some strains are just specific to poultry, there are strains that can infect humans as well, so we have to be very careful. So when we do this work in the lab here in Barbados, we have the facility to do all of this as well. So you could keep pressing for this one as well. This is just to show you, keep going, Damien. This is us setting up the PCR reaction. So everything you just saw there would just be, just the different components that would make it the reaction. And this was me doing it. So when you get to this stage, you can fully dispose of all of the extraction material, all the PPE, and then put on fresh PPE. So in this case, just a lab coat. This was a totally different room, and this was a PCR hood, which was not, so it was high security to low security type of biosecurity here. So we go from extraction to PCR room. And this room is DNA free. Next one.
You're going in the wrong direction there.
All right, so right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Step 2 would be now, after you have your reaction mix, you add the genetic material. Go ahead. And this happened in a different room. So every room was different. So here at the lab in Barbados, we have different PCR hoods to do each step. We don't have different rooms because our building is quite small, but we can do each individual stage on a different hood. So this is just my colleague and I in the other room setting up the reaction mix. And then once you have the reaction mix, you run it in the thermocycler. And as I said, you go from having like one copy of the gene to multiple copies if the gene is present. So this is just a diagram to show you. And then the results, I mean, this is how the results look. I know it looks very crazy here, but this is basically, if you could see these curves, this is just showing the positives. So once you have results and you see positives like this, then you know the gene is actually there. So outcomes of the training, we basically gain knowledge and practical skills on performing real-time PCR. The equipment was already at the vet services, but there was no trained personnel to use the equipment. So thanks to ECA and the SPS project, we now have capacity to use the equipment there and all the materials that they would have ordered beforehand. We also, from CIRAD, when we came back, they gave us PCR startup kits. They gave us templates for SOPs, worksheets, logs. They gave us everything that we could start to have our lab going. The testing initially was just aimed at AI, so this would have helped with our national surveillance program. So what has happened since then, I am proud to say. At that time, I would have been based at Government Analytical Services, and my purpose for going on the training was to implement the testing at GAS to test for food, pathogens like Campylobacter and Salmonella in poultry. So I was able to, when I moved over to vet services, to do it there.
Oops. Oh.
So this is the ECA Ohio State project that Mrs. Harvey would have mentioned, where we looked for antimicrobial resistance. The testing would have been done regionally, so it was a number of labs participating within the region. In Barbados, we did the testing, so we went into supermarkets for one phase of the project. We went into supermarkets and bought raw chicken, and we would have isolated salmonella from that raw chicken, and then any isolates we had, we did the AMR, antimicrobial resistance testing on those samples. So that would have been around May to July 2016, and I would have used the PCR knowledge that I would have gained from the training to do that work. Also, for our routine national surveillance program, PCR is being used to do Salmonella and Campylobacter testing in poultry to support the routine microbiological testing that's being done. And also now, I am working on introducing PCR testing for other animal diseases apart from the avian influenza. So right now we're looking at some avian diseases, bovine diseases, and porcine, so pig diseases. So that's what I'm working on up to this week. All right, so future possibilities, expansion of the PCR testing to do other animal diseases that are not currently monitored. Maybe we can do testing to incorporate other departments of the Ministry of Agriculture. Maybe the Fisheries Division might have fish diseases that they're interested in. We could also include Wildlife Reserve. Maybe they have some diseases in monkeys they might be interested in doing. And we could just use the PCR to support other surveillance programs. We're hoping to have regional or maybe even international collaboration with this testing. And our biggest wish out of all of this is that we can become ISO 17025 accredited in molecular methods as well as our traditional methods that we're using now at the lab. This is just to show you, we did some press after this. CARVET is a network in the region again, veterinary health network, and they did publications on us after the training just to show what Barbados was doing to get ready for AI. So this was the website, and then if you go again, they did a publication in the, they had a bulletin I think at that time. So this was what we did then. This was some of the photos. We had 6 weeks. We ate a lot. It was a really amazing trip, not only academically, but you know, it's really beautiful there. Where we were staying, there was a stray dog and a stray cat. Before I left, I made sure to get, I found homes for them. Yeah, that's basically it. So just wanted to acknowledge, thank you so much to ECA for facilitating this training under the 10th EDF SPS project. Like to thank Dr. Trotman. He's my boss at work. Dr. Beverly Wood, she is the project manager for the NAFCA program. I was hoping she would have been here by now because she was the one that approached ICA for this training, but she's in a meeting right now. Mr. David Alcott, he's our lab manager. And then Natalie and Claire, they would have been the ones at CIRA to help us out. Thank you so much.